I'm Amanda Levin with The Deal, and joining me today to talk about domestic oil and gas M&A activity is Stephanie Pindyck-Costantino of counsel at Pepper Hamilton. Stephanie, the Bakken play has been of great interest to a lot of people, but it's gotten really expensive and priced a lot of companies out. Where are some of the smaller points of entry?
We're seeing some of our clients expand outside of the Bakken, either exit the Bakken to gain capital to go to smaller points of entry, moving out west further, some states including Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska. You're also seeing them go further south, looking a little bit in Louisiana, potentially also further out in California, potentially out in Texas. Really what's driving that is, depending on what the company is and what their capitalization structure is, part of it is cost, part of it is diversification with respect to geography. But that's really where you're seeing additional points of entry is, and also on the outskirts of some of the bigger plays, but they're moving really partially out west.
Every company wants to exit through an MLP, but it's not an option for all companies, particularly the smaller ones. What are some of the other options available that companies might not be thinking about, but they should?
I think when we're really talking to our companies, especially smaller companies, we really try and counsel them to look for maybe a strategic acquisition if they're not really sized right for an MLP. That's changing a little bit as MLPs are starting to look for production in smaller companies potentially, but we're really, when we look and talk to our smaller companies, we really start to structure them that they can have exits that include strategic acquisition and also being a strategic buyer, which means making them a larger player that they can then be of interest to an MLP. You also have some smaller players starting to think about going the IPO route. As you know, it's expensive to go the IPO route, so it's something that we discuss with them and they discuss with their financial advisors to see whether or not they really have the capital structure for that. But that's something else that even the smaller companies are looking at, and it might not necessarily be on a large exchange, it might be on a smaller exchange.
Stephanie, what are some of the challenges in energy deal making right now, and how are you helping your clients to overcome those challenges?
I think what we're seeing in the energy space is, first of all, the energy space is really popular right now. And with that comes potentially a lot of people in a crowded space. And so some of the things that we really help our clients with is to really try and structure them to deal with whatever comes down the road. And whether that be with how to effectively use leverage, to have a structure that can use leverage maybe now when leverage seems to be really a great tool, but maybe down the road it might not be a great tool. How to deal with the change in legislation that appears to be coming down the pike every which way we turn, and the regulations that we're not really sure what they're going to mean for our companies. And so what we really try and do is work with our companies to make sure that they're really staying abreast of the changes in the legislation, and also that they're structured properly to adapt. And I think that's really important, to make sure that the companies have the structures in place to adapt to whatever really comes down the pike.
So oil and gas M&A activity has been extremely active. What is your outlook for the next 6 to 12 months?
I think really what we're seeing is that the companies are really starting to look for diversification depending on what the company is structured as and what the size is. The diversification could be in the type of activity that they do. It could also be where they're located. So you might have a really heavy Bakken company that is now looking to acquire land outside of the Bakken to become a diversified company. You could also have a company that is now looking to get into operations that not necessarily was before. And so really that's something that we've seen come down the pike a lot, which is really trying to grow as the energy space is evolving in the United States. So the companies are really trying to evolve alongside the energy space within the United States.
Stephanie, thank you for joining me today. I'm Amanda Levin, and that's The Deal.